Authorities are sounding the alarm this morning over a decision by the ACT government to decriminalise nearly every single illicit drug, including heroin and ice. We're being warned the relaxed laws will see people from other parts of the country travel to our nation's capital for drug-fuelled parties. Let's bring in Dr Nicole Lee from the National Drug Research Institute at Curtin University. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Doctor. In exactly two months, heroin, meth and cocaine will be decriminalised in the ACT. Is this a good idea?
Well, I think there's two things to remember, that all that's happening is that the drugs are being decriminalised, so they're still illegal and they still attract a penalty. It's just not a criminal penalty, so they won't get jail time, for example. And it's only if people are caught with very small amounts on them that fall into the personal use category. So there's not a lot that's changing. All that's shifting is that we're moving people out of the criminal justice system and pushing them more towards the health system and treating drugs like a health issue rather than a criminal justice issue.
There'll be some who view this as a bit of a slap on the wrist.
Well, I think we have to keep in mind that 43% of the Australian population have tried an illicit drug in their lifetime and around 10% have used recently. So drugs being illegal doesn't really stop people using them. I think we need a completely different way of thinking about drugs rather than just this hardline crackdown type of approach.
It is something that does concern the AFP, though. I mean, they're worried that the ACT may become a hub for crime organisations, that people will head to Canberra as well recreationally to take advantage of this, therefore making their task a lot harder. How do you think this will play out for them?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just decriminalisation. They're not being legalised. That this kind of idea that there's a honeypot effect just isn't borne out by any evidence. I think we need to remember that South Australia, ACT and the Northern Territory have had decriminalised cannabis use for about 30 years and the sky hasn't fallen in. And in fact, the ACT and South Australia have the lowest rate of cannabis use in Australia. And when we look at jurisdictions around the world, what we see is actually where countries have decriminalised, where they've treated drug use, illicit drug use, as a health issue rather than a criminal justice one, we actually see decreases in the number of people using.
Yeah, we'll have to watch this space in terms of all the other drugs being rolled out here. Thanks so much for your insight, Dr Nicole Lee. Appreciate it.
Well, Senate estimates will be a whole lot more interesting.
There are concerns for the future of drug use in the ACT as it's set to become the first state or territory to decriminalise popular drugs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Let's go live to Sarah Stewart in Sydney. Sarah, good morning. This has authorities on edge.
It certainly does, Brooke. As you said, this is not a proposal, this is not a thought, this is a thing. This is happening at the end of October in the ACT. They are decriminalising the use of pretty much all drugs. That is heroin, that is cocaine, that is ice. So what it means is if people are caught with a recreational use amount of these drugs, they'll get a $100 fine or be referred to counselling. If they do counselling, they don't even have to pay the $100 fine. Compare that to other states and territories. You know, you get busted by the police, you may go to court, you may get a conviction, you may have to tell your employer, you may lose your job, the list goes on. In the ACT, you will pay a $100 fine and it will simply all go away. Now, police in both the ACT and in New South Wales are very concerned about this. They are concerned about an increase in organised crime and also an increase in drug use. They expect that lots of Sydney-siders this summer will be making the trip down to Canberra. And Brooke, who would have thought that Canberra could become the party capital of Australia?
None of us could have predicted that. Thank you, Sarah.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my goodness, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
that never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?
Always happens.